Now to discuss this further, we are being joined by Ambassador Volker Stanzel. He is a former German ambassador to China and Japan. Ambassador, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for speaking to WION at this moment. I want to take your quick updates. We are just being told that U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has, of course, reached in Tel Aviv, and he was just giving his joint statements. What are your first thoughts about this flurry of visits that we are seeing from the West in Israel to extend its support?
Well, what else can Israel's friends do but to show solidarity? The U.S. did so. Our own German foreign minister has arrived this afternoon in Tel Aviv too, to also assure Israel that Germany is at the side of it. It does not have any military implications in the case of Germany, but in the case of the United States, definitely it has. And I think this is an important message at a time in Israel when many people there fear that their armed forces, famous as they are, or their intelligence services, equally famous as they are, have not been up to the challenge posted by Hamas.
Right. Ambassador, I want to read out a statement to you before I go to my next question. This statement says, cutting off men, women, children of water, electricity and heat are acts of pure terror and war crimes. Now, this statement was by EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen. She made this statement in reference to what Russia did to the people of Ukraine. I want to ask you, why did the moral compass change when it came to the people of Gaza?
I don't see that it actually has changed. As you have also seen, read and heard, I think is that most or many leaders in Europe and also the United States actually have made a point that the war that is going on, of course, has to follow the legal requirements that confine any kinds of war.
All right. Now, yesterday, the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was in Tel Aviv, and he had said that Hamas does not represent the Palestinians. He went on to speak about what Hamas stands for. You know, right after that statement, we spoke to some residents of Gaza, and they accused Washington of not only being a bystander in the decades-old occupation, but in fact be a party to it. I want to ask you, do you think U.S. entirely understands the fundamental issue that is playing out in Israel and Gaza at the moment?
Well, you see the problem that not only the US, but other observers, other friends of Israel faced over the last, let's say, decade, is that the Israeli government was less and less interested to work towards a two-state solution of the Israel-Palestine problem, which is something that the international community basically had agreed on. Instead, the Israeli governments over the years, again and again, reinforced their support for illegal settlements on the West Bank, something that had been condemned by the United Nations and other international agencies. However, at the same time, we saw that from various sides, it's not just Hamas, the various Palestinian organizations that employ terrorist means of combat. So how to place yourself in a situation like that? We appealed to Israel to return to working for a two-state solution. At the same time, we condemned terrorist acts when they occurred. Nobody, of course, expected something that happened, that it would happen at the time. So on the one hand, I think, yes, sorry.
No, it's absolutely fine. You mentioned the two-state solution. I want to ask you, it is completely off the table, or what do you think, what's happening at the moment?
From the point of view of the present Israeli government, the pre-war cabinet, I think it was off the table, and they have said so many times, and they have to return to it. There is no other way to solve the problem, as I think the present situation shows. You see, Hamas, of course, does not stand for the Palestinian people. There's hardly any real relationship between the government in Ramallah and Hamas people and other Palestinian organizations. They work on their own, they work with terrorist means, and that is not a way towards a solution, nor is the attack that Hamas launched just last week. So we have to return. both the Israelis and the Palestinians have to work towards a two-state solution. I cannot see any other way to solve the problem long-term.
Right. Ambassador Stanzel, speaking of solutions, with the kind of statements coming in from Biden and Blinken in the last 6 days, or US as a whole, do you think United States should be on the peace table?
I do not understand the question. The United States should be?
As in, I'm asking if at all there's a peace table in the future where we talk about the conflict and the solution to the conflict. Do you think United States should be on the table? Do you think it can mediate between the two sides where it could lead to peace?
Yes, I think it can. I think the US has tried during the last 5-6 years with promoting the Abraham Accords that it can play a mediating roles between Arabs who are willing to accommodate some of Israel's wishes at least, and the Israelis themselves, even led by a government like that of Netanyahu. So they must have the Americans must have a place there. But I think the table must be at the United Nations, and the peace process will have to be guided by the United Nations, because you have no other international institution that represents the international community's interests in resolving the conflict as much as the United Nations.
All right, Ambassador Stanzel, thank you so much for speaking with us from Berlin. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
You're welcome.